Franois Boziz Yangwuvonda is a Central African politician who was the president of the Central African Republic from 2003 to 2013. Boziz rose to become a high-ranking army officer in the 1970s, under the rule of Jean Bedel Bokassa. After Bokassa was ousted, Boziz served in the government as Minister of Defense from 1979 to 1981 and as Minister of Information from 1981 to 1982. He participated in a failed 1982 coup attempt against President André Colingber and subsequently fled the country. Years later, he served as Army Chief of Staff under President Ange Félix Patas. But he began a rebellion against Patas in 2001. Boziz's forces captured the capital, Bangui, in March 2003, while Patas was outside the country, and Boziz took power, ushering in a transitional period of government. He won the March to May 2005 presidential election in a second round of voting, and he was re-elected in the January 2011 presidential election, winning the vote in the first round. In December 2012, the car was plunged into an uprising by rebel forces who condemned the Boziz government for not honoring peace agreements after the Central African Republic Bush War in 2007. On the 24th of March 2013, Boziz fled to Cameroon via the Democratic Republic of the Congo after the rebel forces attacked Bangui and took control of the presidential palace. There, he was housed by Paul Biya, President of Cameroon. On the 29th of May 2013, an international arrest warrant was issued against Boziz by the Central African Justice. Boziz was born in the present-day Gabon, a member of the Gbaya people, and attended a military officers' training college in the Central African province of Bouar. He became a second lieutenant in 1969 and a captain in 1975. He was appointed Brigadier General by the Emperor of Central Africa Bokassa I in 1978. After he beat a French non-commissioned officer who had been disrespectful to the emperor. With General Josihat Mokala, Boziz ordered military personnel to attack young demonstrators who were asking for their parents' arrears. After Bokassa was ousted by David Decaux in 1979, Boziz was appointed Minister of Defense after an operation that the French army used to overthrow Bokassa. Following Decaux's ouster by André Colingber in September 1981, Boziz was appointed Minister of Information, but fled to the north of the country with 100 soldiers after his involvement in a failed coup attempt led by Ange Félix Patas on 3 March 1982, in which he accused Colingber of treason and proclaimed the change of power on Radio Bangui. He then obtained refuge in France. Boziz was arrested in Cotonou, Benin in July 1989, and imprisoned and tortured. He was put on trial by Colingber on charges of helping the coup d'etat in May but was acquitted on the 24th of September 1991 and released from prison on the 1st of December. He then sought refuge in France, where he remained for nearly 2 years. Under pressure to democratize the government during the 1980s, Colingber had formed a political party and held a referendum, in which he was elected to a 6-year term in office as president. After the fall of the Berlin Wall, internal and external pressures eventually forced Colingber to adopt the beginnings of a democratic approach. In March 1991, he named Edouard Franck Prime Minister but allowed him virtually no power. He also established a commission to revise the constitution in order to promote pluralism. As a result, the donor community severely restricted aid flows pending movement towards democracy, putting the country into a vicious cycle in which it could not obtain the resources to pay for an election, which would legitimize it sufficiently to obtain a flow of aid. When he was pressured by the international community, via a group of locally represented international donors called GIBAFOR, including a very vocal and eloquent U.S. ambassador to the Central African Republic, Daniel H. Simpson, to hold fair elections. They were assisted by the UN Electoral Assistance Unit and monitored by international observers in 1992, but a lot of the resources came from France. Kolingba had the 1992 election sabotaged as he discovered he was not expected to win the vote and so declared the election invalid, getting the Constitutional Council cancel it. Under continued pressure from the donor group, the election was rescheduled for September 1993. In the 1993 election, Boziz ran for the presidency as an independent, receiving 12,159 votes. 1.5% of the total votes cast. Patas, Abel Gombar and Kolingba received 37.32%, 21.68% and 12.10% of the vote, respectively. But since none of the candidates obtained a majority, a runoff election between the top two candidates, Patas and Gombar, was held. Patas defeated Gombar by a 53.49% to 46.51% vote and was elected president of the Central African Republic. For many years Boziz was considered a supporter of Patas and helped him suppress army mutinies. In 1996 and 1997, Boziz was named the Armed Forces Chief of Staff. Boziz showed